Good morning, my dear students. I welcome you all to our new academic year. I welcome you all to 10th standard. Before entering into the new syllabus, let's have a small revision or recap of what we have learned the last year. We have learned various lessons in 9th standard under science, especially in biology. So let me give a small recap of what you have learned last year. Out of about 25 lessons in 9th standard, there are 8 biology lessons, of which I am going to concentrate. It is very difficult to go through all the lessons, but still I will try to complete my best. Our first biology lesson is chapter 17, Animal Kingdom. In this lesson, we are learning about how animals are classified. By this time, you should be knowing that the whole living organisms are classified into 2 main groups, plants and animals. But there is a classification known as Behender's 5 kingdom classification, who classifies the living organisms into 5 divisions, and that's why it is known as 5 kingdom classification, which includes Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Anyhow, those things you learn in higher classes. By time being, based on what this classification is done, this is what we are going to learn. And secondly, we are going to have a brief idea about animal kingdom classification. First of all, what is classification? Classification is grouping of organisms based on their similarities and dissimilarities. And there is another term named as taxonomy. The study of classification is known as taxonomy. There is a hierarchy of classification, which is none other than kingdom, phylum or division, class, order, family, genus and species. This is the hierarchy of classification. And second is based on what concept they classify. So based on certain features, the whole living organisms, especially animal kingdom, is classified. 1. Level of organization, that is whether the living organism is unicellular or multicellular. The second is symmetry, whether the living organism has equal way of organs, equal arrangement of organs or not. Based on that, it is classified as asymmetry, bilateral symmetry and radial symmetry. Asymmetry, if there is no equal halves. Bisymmetry, which can be divided only in one plane, and radial symmetry, in any planes if you see, you can get 2 equal halves. Then third one is germ layer. Based on the number of germ layers, it is classified into diploblastic and triploblastic animals. If it has 2 layers, that is ectoderm and endoderm, it is known as diploblastic animal. If it has 3 layers, that is ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm, it is known as triploblastic animals. The next concept is binomial nomenclature, that is naming each and every living organism into 2 names, one genus name and other species name. So many examples are there under binomial nomenclature. For example, the scientific name of human beings is Homo sapien. Scientific name of cockroaches, Periplaneta americana. Scientific name of rice is Oryza sativa. So like that, we have plenty of names for different living organisms, both plants and animals. Naming each and every organism in 2 words, one genus name and other species name, is actually known as binomial nomenclature. Animal kingdom, that is the whole animals that are found in this earth, are classified into basically 2 types as invertebrates and vertebrates. invertebrates which does not have backbone, and vertebrates which have backbone. The invertebrates, you have different phylums like phylum Porifera, phylum Coelenterata, phylum Platyhelminthes, phylum Ascomynthus, phylum Annelida, phylum Arthropoda, phylum Mollusca, and the phylum Echinodermata. And under vertebrates, there is an important phylum, that is phylum Chordata. So this first Porifera, they are multicellular animals with pores on their surface. Example, sponges, which lives under the sea, which is found under the sea. So they have small pores, and so they are known as Porifera or Poriferans. Second one is Coelenterata. These animals, they have coelom, that is a cavity inside your body, and so they are known as Coelenterata. Example, Hydra and jellyfish. The third one is phylum Platyhelminthes, that is flat worms, which is dorsoventrally flattened. Flat worms are known as Platyhelminthes. Example, good example is tapeworm and planaria. The next one is phylum Ascomynthus, which is none other than roundworms. Okay, the roundworms, example Ascaris, which is a parasite found in small kids, causing disease. The next is phylum Annelida. Annelids includes earthworms. Okay, earthworms which has a segmented body. That is the specialty of annelids. The next one is Arthropoda. That is insects come under Arthropoda, where you come across segmented body. And the second one is they have 3 pairs of legs and 2 pairs of wings. The next is phylum Mollusca, none other than snail, which is found inside the shell. Those kind of animals come under Mollusca, that is snail and clams, where you come across a shell inside which you come across the living organism. The next is phylum Echinodermata, which has spiny structures, example starfish. And finally, phylum Chordata, which are none other than vertebrated animals, that is animals which have backbone are known as vertebrated animals, or phylum Chordata, which can also be called as vertebrate. Okay. This phylum Vertebrata classified into many classes, especially 5 classes, which includes class Pisces, class Amphibia, class Reptilia, class Aves, and the class Mammalia. So first Pisces, which includes all kinds of fishes, amphibians, which includes all kinds of frogs and toads. They are called amphibians because they can survive both in water and land. Then Reptilia, which includes lizards, crocodiles, alligators, snakes, and salamanders, garden lizards, chameleon, etc. These animals, they crawl and move. They crawl on the substratum and move, and so they classified under Reptilia. Even though there are some which are amphibious in nature, these are classified separately as Reptilia. Next, class Aves, which includes all kinds of birds, and class Mammalia, which includes all mammals. That is, mammals are animals which give birth to young one and feed the young one with milk. So, with regard to Aves, that is birds, they have feathers on their body. They can fly mostly. Most of the birds they can fly, except some they cannot fly. And next one is since they are flying for buoyancy, they have pneumatic bones filled with the air. In case of mammals, they have mammary gland, and so they are called as mammals. That is milk-producing gland known as mammary glands, which are found in the females. And those which feed the young ones with milk, and so they are collectively known as mammals. The next topic is chapter 18, organization of tissues. In this topic, first we are going to learn about plant tissues, followed by animal tissues. Plant tissues, which can be classified into 2 types as temporary tissues and permanent tissues. Temporary tissues, where the tissues are temporary, at a circumstance, this temporary can become permanent. But permanent tissues, as per the name, they are always permanent. They cannot be transferred or transformed into any other tissue. Temporary tissues are also known as meristem, which is classified into three types as apical meristem, lateral meristem and intercalary meristem. Apical meristem, which are found at the two ends of a plant, one at the shoot system in the stem and other at the root end. That is known as apical meristem. Apical means end. Then intercalary meristem, which are found near the internodes. I hope you know the place where a stem or a branch or a leaf arises is known as node. The space between two nodes is known as internode. So where you come across this intercalary meristem, and which is responsible for the internodal elongation of a stem. And third one is lateral meristem, which is found on the surface of the stem, and that helps in the development of girth or width of the stem or shoot system. So these are the three types of meristems. The next one is permanent tissues. This permanent tissue classified into two types as simple and complex. So with regard to simple tissues, there are three types of simple tissues, namely collenchyma, parenchyma and sclerenchyma. And with related to complex tissues, there are two types of complex tissues which are also known as vascular tissues, which includes xylem and the phloem. And you all know the xylem and phloem, which are involved in the transportation of food and water. That is, xylem transports, xylem tissues are involved in the transportation of water from the root system towards the shoot system, which is absorbed by the root hairs. And similarly, the food that is produced in the leaves are transported to all parts of the body through the phloem tissues. That is, starch is transported through phloem. Xylem, there are four types of xylem, which includes xylem brachis, xylem vessels, xylem fiber and xylem parenchyma. In phloem, there are again four types of phloem tissues, which includes sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem fiber and the phloem parenchyma. So this is a brief idea about your plant tissues. The study of cell is known as cytology. The study of tissues is known as histology. In animals, we have two types of tissues, simple and compound tissues. If a group of cells of the same origin, which are similar and of the same origin, they are known as simple tissues. A group of cells with a different structure or function, but they group together to form a tissue, and those are known as compound tissues. In animals, we have four types of tissues, which include epithelial, muscular, connective and nervous tissue. Epithelial tissue, which covers the whole body and protects the internal structures. Then muscular tissue, which is involved for locomotion or movement from one place to another. Then nervous tissue, which is involved in the coordination of the whole organs and whole body. And finally, connective tissue, which connects one tissue and the other. There are two types of epithelium. One is simple and compound epithelium. And there are few subtypes of simple epithelium, which includes squamous, columnar, cuboidal, ciliated and glandular. Connective tissues include areolar tissue, bone, ligaments, tendons and blood. Muscular tissue is classified into skeletal muscles, smooth muscles and cardiac muscles. Nervous tissue comprises of neurons, which are found all over the body and which is involved in the organization of the body, of the whole structure. The next topic is cell division. So we have three types of cell division, which includes amitosis, mitosis and meiosis. The division that takes place in unicellular microorganisms are known as amitosis, where the cell without the involvement of chromosomes divides into two. For example, binary fission is a amitotic cell division, which is found in unicellular, most of the unicellular microorganisms. In mitosis and meiosis, chromosomes are involved. I hope you know what is the chromosome. The chromosome is comprised of DNA found inside the nucleus of each cell. Mitosis is an equational division where the cell divides into two equal halves. That is, the chromosome number is maintained. For example, in humans, the number of chromosomes is 46. When a cell divides into two, each cell contains 46 chromosomes. But in meiosis, a cell divides into four daughter cells with half the number of chromosomes. Again, for example, in humans, I said there are 46 chromosomes, but when that one human cell divides into four daughter cells, each cell will be having only half the number, that is only 23. And this meiosis takes place in gametes, that is in the production of sperm and ovum. Since the number of chromosomes is reduced to half, this is useful in actually fertilization process, where again a sperm with 23 and a ovum with a 23 fuses to form a zygote with 23 plus 23, that is 46 number of chromosomes. And that way the number of chromosomes is always maintained, and that way the chromosome nature of a species is maintained. Mitosis takes place when there is growth of a living organism, especially multicellular organism. Second one is healing of wounds, and third one is when there is a regeneration, which is found in certain animals like the tail of lizard, the arms of planaria, or the arms of starfish, or the tail of earthworm. All these are because of mitosis, where the structure is maintained since the chromosome is maintained. Chapter 19, Plant Physiology. In this topic, we are going to learn some four important topics. One, movement of plants. Second, respiration. Third, photosynthesis. And next is transpiration. These are the four topics we are going to see. Movement in plants. So we have two types of movement. One is tropism and second one is nastism. If the movement is dependent on growth, that is none other than growth, then it is known as tropism. If the movement is not dependent on growth, it is known as nastism. There are some few types of tropism, which includes phototropism, hydrotropism, geotropism, chemotropism, and thigmotropism. The growth based on light, for example, shoot system growing towards light and root system growing away from light is known as phototropism. The movement based on earth or gravitational force is known as geotropism, where shoot system always go away from the gravitational force or earth, and root system always grows towards earth or gravitational force. The growth that is based on water, towards water or against water, is known as hydrotropism. Root system growing towards water, for example. Then fourth one is growth based on chemicals. That is, during pollination, when the pollen grain falls on the stigma of a female flower, the pollen grain starts to grow towards the ovule because of a chemical, because of a sweet substance present inside the ovule. And this is known as chemotropism. And finally, thigmotropism. In case of climbers, where they touch the substratum which is near the plant. I hope you know what is a big climbers. The climbers which have a weak stem, so they cannot stand erect, they cannot grow erect. So they climb using the substratum or support that is found near the plant, and that is based on touch, and that is known as thigmotropism. Nastism. There are three types of nastism, which includes photonasty, thigmonasty, and thermonasty. Photonasty, where the movement of the plants based on light. For example, we have sunflower which turns towards the light or towards the sun, whereas there is a moonflower which blossoms only during night time. So this is known as photonastism. Second one is pigmonastism, where you come across these insectivorous plants which try to, for example, Venus flytrap, which tries to close and the insects come in contact with them. Similarly, we have this touch-me-not plant where the leaves is shrunk fast as it could and slowly regains to its original position. These are the two examples of pigmonastism. Then third one is thermonasty. Tulip plants blossoming when the temperature increases. So this is a good example of thermonastism. Photosynthesis. The production of starch in the presence of sunlight with the use of chlorophyll pigment is known as photosynthesis. A photosynthesis takes place only in green plants which contains chlorophyll pigment, where the light energy is converted into chemical energy, that is glucose or starch. This is known as photosynthesis, which takes place mainly in the leaves of plants. Respiration. The exchange of gases which takes place in the leaves through the small holes that are found in the leaves is known as respiration or breathing. The small holes that are found in the leaves are known as stomata. The structure of stomata is none other than a small hole guarded by two bean-shaped cells known as guard cells, through which the air flows inside and comes out, and whereby the required oxygen is taken and the carbon dioxide is sent out. And finally, transpiration. The loss of excess water from a plant is known as transpiration, which also takes place through stomata. There are some plants in which transpiration also takes place through the cuticle layer of the stem, or in case of large trees, it takes place through lenticels that are found in the barks of the trees. So there are three types of transpiration: one, stomatal transpiration, lenticular transpiration, and cuticular transpiration. But most percentage takes place only through stomata, that is stomatal transpiration. Chapter 20, Organ Systems in Animals. Even though there are various systems in our body, like skeletal system, muscular system, in this lesson we are going to learn only three systems. One is digestive system, excretory system, and reproductive system in animals, especially humans. First is digestive system. So digestive system which comprises of the alimentary canal and the glands, digestive glands, the glands that are involved in the digestion. The alimentary canal starting from the mouth to anus, which can be classified as mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. So mouth comprises of lips, teeth, tongue, and the gland, salivary gland. The salivary glands include a pair of maxillary, a pair of parotid, and a pair of sublingual. When you swallow the food, it goes into pharynx. Pharynx is a common pathogen for both air as well as water and food. From there, it is divided into two regions where food enters into esophagus. There is a barrier in the respiratory tract which is known as glottis and epiglottis, which prevents the entry of food or water into the respiratory tract. So the food enters into the long tubular structure known as esophagus, and from there it enters into stomach. In stomach, hydrochloric acid is found, and a part of digestion takes place in the stomach, and digested food is sent to the small intestine. The small intestine includes duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The duodenum is a U-shaped structure which is connected to liver and the pancreas. The liver produces bile juice and the pancreas produces pancreatic juice. These juices contain digestive enzymes which continues the digestion process, and from there it goes to the remaining part of the small intestine, where the digested nutrients are absorbed by small finger-like projections known as villi. From there, the digested food goes to the large intestine, where excess water is reabsorbed, and then the remaining waste is stored in the rectum and sent out through anus. Excretory system. There are three excretions taking place in our body. One, the sweat which is excreted by the sweat glands in the skin. Second is the carbon dioxide and water vapor that are excreted by the lungs. And third one is the kidneys which excrete the nitrogenous waste. There are a pair of bean-shaped kidneys found in the dorsal side of our body. From these kidneys, a pair of ureter arises, which is connected to a urinary bladder, and when the urine is filled in this bladder, the urine is sent out through a small tubular structure known as urethra. Kidney, ureter, urinary bladder, urethra. These are the major four parts of our excretory system. Kidney comprises of millions of nephrons which are involved in the excretion of the nitrogenous waste. The main function of kidney is it is involved in the removal of excess water from the nitrogenous waste, that is from the urine. Then the next and last topic is human reproductive system. So human reproductive system is in male and human reproductive system in female. In males, the human reproductive system comprises of a pair of testes, vas deferens and urethra. This human male reproductive system are connected to certain glands which are involved in the production of hormones for the sperms. In female, there are a pair of ovaries, a pair of fallopian tube, a muscular bag named as uterus, and the opening known as vagina. In females also, we have certain glands or gonads which are involved in the production of female reproductive hormones. The male reproductive hormone is testosterone, and in females, three hormones are produced, which includes estrogen, progesterone, and relaxin. Chapter 21, Nutrition and Health. In this chapter, we are going to learn various nutrients that is found in food. I hope you might have learned in lower classes the components of food or the ingredients of food is none other than the nutrients, which includes carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, roughage and water. Carbohydrates is found more in cereals like rice, wheat, barley, maize, etc. Proteins are found more in pulses or leguminous plants like nuts and grams. Nuts like cashew nut, walnut, peanut, etc. And grams like horse gram, green gram, Bengal gram, chana, moong dal, etc. Fats are found especially in the meat, fish, egg, milk and certain vegetable oils. Vitamins and minerals are found in fruits and vegetables. Carbohydrates is known as the primary source of energy. Then fat is known as the secondary source of energy, whereas protein is known as the tertiary source of energy. That is, the first nutrient that immediately becomes energy is carbohydrates. When there is lack of carbohydrates, fats are converted into energy, and in the absence of these two, protein is converted into energy. Carbohydrates are known as energy giving food, proteins are known as body building food, and vitamins are known as protective foods. There are two types of vitamins, namely fat soluble vitamins and water soluble vitamins. There are some different types of vitamins like A, B, C, D, E and K. Minerals are none other than the inorganic substances which includes sodium, potassium, magnesium, manganese, iron, calcium, etc. The main aim to learn about the nutrients found in the food is to have a balanced diet. What is a balanced diet? Eating all the nutrients in a particular ratio or in a particular proportion is actually known as balanced diet. When a person lacks a particular nutrient, he or she will suffer with nutrient deficiency or nutrient deficiency disorder, which is also known as malnutrition. There are a list of malnutrition taking place all over the world. This may be mainly due to two reasons. One, poverty, and second one is consuming more junk foods. Junk foods contains more amount of carbohydrates or fats and lacks main important nutrients like vitamins and minerals. And due to all these reasons, various different types of disorders takes place, which includes kwashiorkor, marasmus, nyctalopia, rickets, scurvy, etc. To avoid this nutritional deficiency diseases, we have to consume balanced diet at regular intervals of time along with regular exercises. All foods cannot be available in all the seasons, and you cannot have a food for all the seasons, which means these foods are self-decomposable or self-degradable. So, foods should be preserved. There are different types of food preservation like drying, smoking, irradiation, pasteurization, cold storage, freezing, and canning. Food can also be stored by the addition of certain preservatives. We have natural preservatives as well as artificial preservatives. Natural preservatives which include addition of salt or sugar, and there are numerous chemical preservatives that is added to the food and preserved, which means preservatives are mostly dangerous to our health. Like how we have issues in various departments of this world, we also have issues related to food. The main issue is food adulteration. You might have seen in some movies that the food is adulterated or mixed with similar substances or similar chemicals. This is known as food adulteration. This is of three types, as by natural adulterants, by unintentionally incidental adulterants, and third one is intentionally added adulterants. There are various health issues that are faced due to this adulteration. Apart from contamination or spoilage of food, food is intentionally adulterated, and thereby the person who consumes the food faces various issues due to this kind of adulteration. So it is our prime duty to be safe and to avoid these adulterants or preservatives and eat a healthy food and live a happy and sound life. The next chapter is World of Microbes. There are different types of microorganisms found in this earth. The organisms which cannot be seen through naked eye and which can be seen only through a microscope are known as microbes or microorganisms. The microbes include bacteria, algae, fungi, protozoans, and viruses. Bacteria are unicellular, prokaryotic microorganisms. Some are harmful, some are useful, and some are harmless. Then algae, which comprise of both unicellular as well as multicellular microorganisms. Most of the algae have chlorophyll pigment, and so most of the algae are harmless, and most of the algae are useful. Then next is fungi. Fungi is a non-green plant which does not have chlorophyll pigment and which are heterotrophic in nature. It may be a parasite or a decomposer. The largest fungus is mushroom. We have both unicellular as well as multicellular fungi. Some are unicellular and some are multicellular. Then protozoans are unicellular animals. Again, they are heterotrophic in nutrition. Some are parasites and some are decomposers. And finally, the smallest, tiniest living organism are viruses. There are different types of viruses which are classified based on their host, like a bacteriophage, phytophage, zoophage, cyanophage, etc. A virus that affects bacteria are known as bacteriophage. A virus which affects a cyanobacteria is known as cyanophage. A bacteria which affects plants are known as phytophage, and bacteria which affects animals are known as zoophage. Each and every microorganism have their own different structure. Some are round in shape, some are hexagonal in shape, some are rod shaped, some are spiral shaped. So each and every virus have their own structures. There are various applications of microbes. In various fields, we use microorganisms for various purposes, which can be broadly divided into three, where microorganisms are used in industries, microorganisms that are used in medicine, and microorganisms that are used in agriculture. With related to harmful effects of microbes mainly causes diseases. Based on its occurrence, these diseases are classified into four types as endemic, epidemic, pandemic and sporadic. If the disease is found only in a particular geographical area, it is known as endemic disease. Even though it is found in a particular geographical area, if it spreads, it is known as epidemic disease. If a disease spreads all over the world, it is known as pandemic disease. And if a disease occurs occasionally, it is known as sporadic disease. These are the certain aspects which are important related to an infection. First of all, the mode of entry is very, very important. Each microorganism has a specific mode of entry. Some enter into through air, some enter into through water or food, and some microorganisms they enter only through a wound. Almost all the microorganisms, they are transmitted from one person to another through communication, which may be even through fomites like tumblers, plates, towels, soaps, combs, etc. That is, all inanimate objects that we share are known as fomites. The third aspect is the reservoir of infection. Once when the organism enters into your body, it needs a specific organ, a specific site where it can survive or thrive or multiply. Only when it is able to multiply into many, then only it is able to cause infection. This can also be called as incubation period, and after this it starts to produce infection in a person or a living organism. Based on the mode of transportation, diseases are classified into different types as airborne diseases, waterborne diseases, zoonotic diseases, sexual transmitted diseases, etc. If the microorganism is transmitted through air, it is known as airborne diseases. If the microorganism is transmitted through water, it is known as waterborne diseases. If it is transmitted through animals, from animals if you get an infection, it is known as zoonotic disease. If it is transmitted through improper sexual contact, it is known as sexually transmitted diseases. There is also another type of transmission which is known as vector-borne diseases. Vectors are agents which are involved in the transmission of the disease, but at the same time the agent or the vector or that particular animal will not be affected. This is known as vector, and the type of disease is known as vector-borne diseases, which includes malaria, chikungunya, dengue fever, etc. Where a housefly or a mosquito is involved in the transmission of the disease, but that particular mosquito or housefly is not affected at all. This is known as vector-borne diseases. So to prevent ourselves from any kind of disease, we have to follow certain measures like eating a healthy and a balanced diet, doing regular exercises, and maintaining our immunity. Maintaining immunity may be natural way or artificial way. Artificial means which includes taking antibiotics or vaccines. With regard to vaccines, which is the administration of vaccine is known as immunization. There are various different types of vaccines that are used against various diseases. Vaccines are of two types, like live and dead vaccines. A vaccine has the dead or live form of microorganism, or a part of the microorganism, or the toxin that is produced by the microorganism in attenuated manner, which means where that organism or the part of the microorganism or the toxin cannot cause any infection or disease, but can only stimulate the immunity of a person. There are various different types of vaccines like BCG, DPT, dt, tt, etc. And at this present situation, you might also come across various different types of vaccines in day-to-day life. Vaccines stimulate our immunity or immune response and makes our body to fight against the germs. The final topic is environmental science, where we are going to learn biogeochemical cycles and certain adaptations found in plants and animals. The biogeochemical cycles, where you come across a particular chemical which goes in the form of a cycle in bio as well as geo, that is in living and non-living. We have different types of biogeochemical cycles like carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, water cycle, etc.